Greetings, brothers and sisters. So, one of my friends on Instagram just sent me this. It's 8 months old, but it's new to me. I never got to the sort of do a conclusion of my coverage of Chrissy Teigen after she got canceled and all the rest of that stuff. But she's doing an interview with the annoying Bush girl and Hoda. And there might be too much annoying. It's like the trinity of annoying here.
Beautiful, beautiful cookbook. And
it's a beautiful, beautiful cookbook, Chrissy.
I think the most beautiful thing I have to say was when I flipped the page and I just saw for Jack.
For Jack.
For Jack. Jack was her miscarriage, the baby that was miscarried.
Yeah,
and
hopefully.
that was so touching and beautiful, and it was important to dedicate it to him.
Yeah, he was all throughout the book. I mean, he's still such a big part of our family life. You know, we're Thais, so we very much embrace death.
Wait, you very much embrace death?
And we kind of are very vocal about it with our kids, and it's just, I just.
Why are you so upset about a fetus that was killed? I mean, she's a liberal Hollywood type. It's just a fetus that died, right? I thought you had no problem with fetus death, right? I mean, it's just a fetus, right? You know, I've said this before. These Hollywood celebrities that are so pro-abortion, and when it's them who's pregnant, we saw this with Amy Schumer, who had vicious abortion humor, and then she had she had problems getting pregnant, and then she got pregnant. She's like, "There's a baby inside of me," right? A fetus or cancer, what is it when it's not, when you don't want it, right? I've said that over and over again. It's a baby when you do want it, but it's something else when you don't. Hilaria Baldwin also suffered a lot of issues with the miscarriage. Chrissy Teigen went through trauma, right? Miscarriages are very emotionally difficult for the woman and often the men and the people around the mother, right? And so abortion is, just basically a purposeful miscarriage, right? But anyways, enough of the hypocrisy. Let's get into her sobriety here.
There was no way I could get around not thinking about him the whole process. So.
Yeah. I mean, I can name personally many women that you helped.
Okay, Jenna, go ahead. What are they?
Sharing your story. I wonder, what was it like to do that so publicly? And how about talking to the kids about it?
Oh, it was so
Jenna Bush, there's a time when she was like petrified of her grandma. So first she starts off here dancing the Macarena dressed as her grandmother.
That's right.
Look at her, she's crazy as F. There's something else, maybe her interview with Michelle Obama. She's some serious crazy, right?
It is Jenna Bush, a.k.a. Mrs. Barbara Bush, getting into the 90s theme. Yes.
Did that just happen?
It's Matt Lauer. The now disgraced Matt Lauer.
It's Mrs. Bush to you, Savannah. Yeah, it's a good look for you.
To the Renaissance Fair?
Happy Halloween! All right, that was fun. And you know what? This is a flash forward to what I'm going to look like in my golden years.
Jenna.
I have to ask, does your grandmother know you dressed up this way today?
Well, she may know. Willie, I'm glad you mentioned that because we just happened to have someone
Look at her. She's freaking out.
who is joining us right now. First Lady Barbara Bush. Mrs. Bush, good morning. What do you think of our costumes and your granddaughter's likeness? Good morning. What do you think?
Well, I heard she was going to dress up like a witch, so I did too.
I didn't say that, Ganny. I didn't say that. That was Matt.
Look at her. She's all freaking out here. All crazy. Come on, Ganny. I didn't say you were a witch, Ganny. Don't lock me in the basement again, Ganny. Come on, Ganny. I'll be a good girl, Ganny. Don't eat me, Ganny. Come on, Ganny. I don't want to be eaten, Ganny. It was Matt, Ganny. Go eat Matt. Matt's going to be me too anyway. Eat Matt.
I think when I first shared the photos, a lot of people were very thrown off by them. It was such a personal, weird thing. And it was very weird for me to ask John to take the photos or have.
She was still drunk at the time, right? She didn't stop drinking, and it seemed like she was drinking throughout her pregnancy. What she revealed was, and this is why I'm covering this, is that she had been drunk for years. People said, oh, you say such outrageous things. And then she came out and said, well, I've been an alcoholic. I started drinking at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. And then by the time she was posted on Instagram, she was pretty lit every night, every afternoon. And so people thought that her posts were outrageous, much like, wherever that woman was, you don't need to tell me, I don't care, don't need to know. But she was the Nixon woman that I talked about in an earlier video. That's oftentimes when people are outrageous, they're just like effed up all the time, right? And then she decided to get sober, not because she was pregnant, not because of her family, not because of, anything that would be, a real reason. It was because she got canceled on Instagram for bullying whatever that girl's name, whoever that young girl got married to that old guy, where don't tell me, don't care, don't need to know. But she got canceled, and then because she couldn't be on Instagram anymore and she was losing sponsorships, she got sober. So this is, not a success story.
Like this kind of documentation of this process. But I really genuinely in that moment thought that it would be helpful to so many women out there. And talking to the kids about it is
because that's why people post stuff on Instagram, to be helpful to other people.
Really magical, because my mother obviously lives with us, and she brings in that like old school Thai sensibility of they're always around us, they're in the air, they're in the sky. We have his ashes next to my bed, and my kids, like we joke about it, but like when we go on vacation and things.
So what I know about this kind of situation is that the soul wants to go where it wants to go. And people can keep the soul here by their attachment to it and not let it go where it needs to go, right? Because of their own, whatever they're going through. So that isn't a good thing, right? What she's describing. You go through your grieving process, and at some point you have to, wish the soul well and, send it on its way, because it needs to go to wherever it needs to go. It needs to leave the earthly plane of existence and go, to wherever it needs to be in the etheric world. You don't keep it tied down here, which so many people want to do, right?
They're like, don't forget Jack, and like we'll pack him up and we bring him, and I'm like, one day we'll release him, and but
not yet. We're not done with him yet. He hasn't done. He hasn't done feeding me.
But for right now, it really helped explain death to them. Like, it was kind of confusing to tell them like what had happened in the hospital.
I think she might be drinking again.
But once they saw the ashes, they realized, oh, this happened. He's not coming back. Like it's, it became very real to them, and they draw him in.
He got reels.
School and things, so yeah.
There are so many profound things that are happening in your life right now. The thing that you revealed earlier today was that you are 100 days sober.
Yeah.
100 days. She made a whole 100 days.
And that's a big deal. That is a big deal. Why did you make that decision, Chrissy?
Because she got canceled.
I hadn't gone, aside from being pregnant, I hadn't gone more than a day or two ever since I started drinking at 20 or so.
She didn't say, besides being pregnant, when she first came out with this. She said she drank every day for the last 10 years.
So I just really never had that period of time of like clear thought.
And you're saying you have that now. You say that you're thinking clearly now, right? Let's just establish this. You didn't have it before, but now you're thinking clearly.
Even when I was, and if I wasn't drinking, it was because I was hungover or something. Yeah. So it was just like the whole detox out of my system of it, and realizing you get this like this high from having energy and being able to play with your kids and roll on the floor with them. And
which she wasn't doing before because she was S-faced all the time.
I mean, there's just, my best friends, my closest friends, my family, everybody's noticed a difference. And there's really I still am like, I hate working in absolutes. So I'm like, am I ever going to have a glass of wine again? Or,
yeah, you will. You'll be drinking again. You'll be canceled again.
And all I know is it like just did not serve, it just doesn't serve me anymore. Like I'm not fun on it. I don't dance. Yeah. I don't I'm not a better person.
She doesn't dance and have fun. She's a miserable drunk.
Yeah, it's just not for me. I appreciate, like I told your producers, I was like, make sure they know that, like, if they want to drink, they want to do anything, like, they could do what they want.
Was there something that, was there a reason, was there like a moment where you said this, yeah, was there something that made you decide?
I've been struggling with it, honestly, for the past couple of years was when I knew it was kind of an issue. I mean, I just, like, even, like, doing interviews and things, like, I would think I needed a glass of wine or, and then it just...
Yeah, or 2 or 5, or 2 or 3 bottles.
Hard to get embarrassing, like at award shows and things, and everyone memes it and thinks it's funny and cute, right? That you fell asleep or something at the Oscars, but I mean, it became embarrassing, and I am obviously with someone like John, who is, it's hard to be around somebody that's so respected and so beloved and so.
He's a legend.
Loved, and
he changed his name to Legend, right? A guy who changes his name to Legend and marries someone like this.
I just was like, I can't be the messy one. I just can't. This is embarrassing, and I don't want to waking up in the morning and being like, oh, like, what did I say? Like, that's so embarrassing. And then it was just not worth it. That feeling is not worth it. Not to mention the headaches and everything, but that feeling of embarrassment is just...
Talk about being canceled.
By the way, you're such an honest person. I just want to say,
like
you're just saying it.
You're so honest.
People, because I think a lot of women are sober curious.
Yeah, well, Quit Like a Woman helped me a lot. That book was really important for me. You learn about, like, the patriarchy and how, and really how...
Quit Like a Woman, because it's a man's fault that she's drunk.
We're so drawn as mothers to alcohol, and how it
We're so drawn as mothers to alcohol.
Normalized it is for mothers to day drink, and drinking for me was like a very, that's honestly, that was the only drinking for me. I didn't even call it day drinking. That was just like, that's how I did it. And
yeah, she started drinking at 10 in the morning.
And we joke about, like, kikiing with our friends and going to brunch and getting wasted. And, like, it's just, it's not good.
You know, this year has been very difficult for you. And I wonder what it feels like to be here today.
Remember that time you were canceled and no one wanted you on our show? We wouldn't let you on our show.
And to share your story.
Honestly, it feels so good to just, like, even be back and seeing you and being out and being allowed to come back and tell my story.
She's being allowed to come back, right? Like, she was on the list. You know, some people get on that list and never get off, and some people get on that list like her, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to let you back in, Chrissy."
And to be able to share this book with everybody. But it's obviously so, like, it's been, like, heartbreaking this past year. So to be out again and back again, it just feels really good. And I feel really clear, and I feel very happy. And
I mean, we can see it.
We really can.
Really?
How about this?
Well, you didn't disappoint on the amount of annoying I felt I was gonna experience. Let's go to Alec P.
I just wanted to make a quick mention about the passing of Bramwell Tovey. Bramwell Tovey.
Sounds pretentious, Alec. Like some way that you're trying to, show your aristocracy, right? You're my good friend, Bramwell Tovey, going out and hanging out with Bramwell Tovey.
The conductor.
Just like I thought, a conductor, right? He's a conductor of classical music, because I like my classical music.
The British conductor. In my years of doing the announcing for the New York Philharmonic.
Here we go. We forgot about Bramwell Tovey. Now it's about Alec.
We have QXR on in the background now. In my years of doing the announcing for the Philharmonic, I have had to read copy about the greats, the real towering giants on the podium, whether it's the older crowd like Court.
The older crowd, right?
Mazur, Bernstein, George Schulte, George Zell, on and on. We made a lot of.
Don't worry, there'll be more name dropping. He isn't done yet.
Famous conductors, Toscanini. Too many to mention.
Yeah, but he'll mention more.
And some people who were not as well known. I mean, not as famous as Jaap van Zweden and.
So think about how smart his fans are, right? He shot a coworker. He's really pretentious. You know, his whole thing about hating Trump, all that stuff, right? His wife faked an accent. You know, he's just, he's had these multiple anger breakdowns showing anger, assaulting people, berating his kids. I mean, these are the things we know about, right? These are the, whatever, the Alec Baldwin breakdowns. He's not very likable. And so think about the kind of IQs his fan has to have, right? So how many of them know anything about conductors and classical music? Like how many of the dopes that are fans of Alec Baldwin know anything about what he's talking about? Very few. Like, come on now.
Riccardo Muti, Esa-Pekka.
Not Esa-Pekka. Come on, Alec. Esa-Pekka's Alec's favorite.
Dudamel, Tilson Thomas. I mean, again, I could go on.
I could name drop through this whole little video, right? I forgot about the original guy who died. I'm just going to name drop.
Marin Alsop. I don't want to say lesser lights, but people who have had quieter careers on the podium, but nonetheless have distinguished themselves.
This is his thinking face.
Like David Robertson. I'll never forget I went
There it is again.
To a matinee at the Philharmonic in New York on a snowy day. It was a very snowy day in New York.
This is his, really thinking face. This is where he's really concentrating, thinking, cinematographers and loaded guns and Boston, Spain. And he's thinking up a storm here.
And David Robertson came to conduct this matinee, and the hall was half full. And Robertson got up and he thanked everyone that came. He said, "Thank you for toughing it out in the bad weather and coming to the show, the performance." And he did one of my favorite pieces, the Mother Goose Suite by Ravel.
He loves the Mother Goose Suite. This is another thinking face. He's got like 3 or 4 thinking face. He's a thinker.
So we have other music going on in the background here.
At least there are no gunshots there, Alec. Well, another thinking face.
David Robertson conducted the New York Philharmonic in the Mother Goose Suite from Ravel, which I love.
You remember there's a dead guy, right? Right? Michael Ravel. Michael Ravel. He conducted the Mother Goose Suite. I love that Mother Goose Suite. More Mother Goose for me, please. A double dose of Mother Goose.
That piece, that suite, and and Bramwell Tovey.
Yeah, the dead guy, right? The reason you're making this video.
I narrated programs or I voiced programs that he conducted at the New York Philharmonic, and other. I've collected pieces and downloaded pieces that he's conducted other ensembles other than the New York Phil. And he passed away. He had a battle with cancer, I believe, and died at the age of 69. I think he was
dropping like flies.
A day older or a day short of his 69th birthday. I don't remember, but I wanted to have something. I wanted to say something in remembrance of Bramwell Tovey, a conductor who brought me a lot of joy in my life.
He lived a life that brought me joy. My other thinking face. That's my thinking face.
Just as much joy as some of the great ones.
Bramwell Tovey wasn't one of the great ones, but he did just die, And he brought me some joy, almost as much joy as the great ones. All the other guys I mentioned.
Lauren Bazell, one of my favorites.
Another thinking face.
Paavo Järvi.
Not Paavo Järvi.
On my podcast, I love Paavo Järvi. But anyway, my sympathies to the family of Bramwell Tovey.
The Toveys. Shout out to those Toveys.
Wonderful conductor in the world of symphonic music.
Wow, that was just so pretentious. And there's his last thinking face. He's doing the JoJo Magoo. They're all getting Magoo face. It's interesting to see in the world of politics and the world of celebrities. There are a lot of people who go through scandals, right? They're, they're disgraced in some way. And some of them are forgiven, right? And some of them aren't. there's a level of, like, the collective just says, you're kind of shunned, right? The shunned Amish. You're done something so bad that we don't even acknowledge your existence, right? And in a village type situation where your family and your village is everything to you, you can't survive without them. Something like that. Again, if it's justified, there's no real coming back from that. Like, your life is essentially over, right? If you did something so horrible that society was like, there's no possibility of redemption, that would be, the end for you. But now, I talked about this with Bill Clinton. Like, he should have quit, over the scandal. He lied, he perjured himself, everything that he did in the Oval Office with an intern, was cheating on his wife, right? And at that time, those of us who were living through that, at that time, what he did was on that level where he should have quit. He should have been impeached. He shouldn't have been able to keep on going, but he refused to quit, right? Like you saw the second Matrix movie where Agent Smith, who was killed in the first Matrix movie, said, I know what I was supposed to do when he was destroyed as a program. I just refused to do it. Like, I didn't, I just didn't die, right? And you see that with some of these celebrities. Barbara Bush was a horrible person. Now, most people didn't know about her, but she was horrible, mean, nasty. Her husband, the Bush family, especially her husband, they took billions of dollars, right? Just all the stuff that Bush crime family did. And, she's celebrated on, then her daughter's on, the whole Bush thing, right? Her daughter's on the Today Show. Chrissy Teigen, she publicly bullied that girl, right, where everyone was, canceled, right? She was canceled. She just lost her endorsements, publicly shamed, and she got sober, and like a year later, it's like, yeah, forget about that, right? You're back, right? Someone like Louis C.K., he's going to never be back, right? Woody Allen, he was never even canceled, even though he clearly deserved to be. Someone like Alec Baldwin, like, he's not going to be in movies anymore. His career's over, and it was a double scandal, him and his wife, but they're still out on Instagram pretending like nothing happened, right? Like, they're just, they're refusing to acknowledge their, their embarrassment, their personal public humiliation at their own hands, their own deeds. But they're not, they're not technically canceled, right? They're sort of in this limbo land. Whereas Trump, on the other hand, he did a bunch of bumbling, stupid stuff. He should be canceled by his own voters who he betrayed, right? Like, Trump screwed his own people. And then all the QBs believing in the great pumpkin that never came, all that stuff. Some of them, most of them just, just gave it up, right? They were a nightmare to deal with. That was one of the great things about Trump going out the way he did. It's like it just destroyed the QBs. Like, they had, they just, had to reinvent themselves. They were just, personally embarrassed waiting on those. Remember all those 1,000, 100,000, 2 million sealed affidavits, whatever, all that stuff, right? The storm is coming. But in terms of what Trump did, in his presidency, it wasn't that bad, right? Compared to what the, other ones have done. But he wasn't part of the club. He was part of the club as a, as a reality TV star, a billionaire, but not a part of the political club. And so, they've basically tried to cancel him, but they can't, and it looks like he's going to run again. So that should all be interesting. Trump isn't a savior, or he isn't going to, he's not any better than Jojo Magoo or anybody else. He's got his own personal handlers, and, he's his own flim-flam man. But it'll be great to watch that, round two, just because they desperately wanted to prevent, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they're just, they want him to run again and win so they can push more of their agenda through. They push so much of their agenda through. But either way, it's like this. There's some people who get away with it and some people who don't. Some people who, are forgiven, and they're the people who are, the most evil, right? The people who are forgiven are the ones that, you know, the ones who aren't forgiven are the ones who have a conscience, or the ones who don't, you know, bow before their overlords, right? I mean, it's, you know, I think I mentioned I was going to do some comments, but I'm not going to do that tonight. I've got one really good comment I want to do, but I'll do that in one of my videos, either on this channel or the other one. But just one final point. Like, if you look at all the wars, we know that the wars after the big event 2001, and then the war before that, the first Iraq war under Bush, we know they looted money. Like, people know, like, you know, maybe not everybody knows that, but they know the wars have been a failure. The Arab Spring Wars under Obama, and the Afghanistan and Iraq war under Bush, W. Bush, right? They know those were a failure. They know it cost trillions of dollars and lives and, you know, all of it, right? They know that there was lies about going into war. I mean, Dick Cheney lied. You know, he was the sort of leader of the gang, and he forced all these people to lie. They all went along with him. And Colin Powell lied to the UN, right? All these things. There's no weapons of mass destruction. The reason we went to war turned out to be false. We didn't win. We didn't deliver. You know, there was just you know, a huge haul of money that was taken away by the, you know, the powers that be, the contractors, the Halliburtons, you know, all these things, right? We know there was a scam. I mean, whatever level people know. And then the way that we backed out of Afghanistan, of course, Obama and Biden was along with all this stuff. Biden's been a part of the failures. Time and time again, the Bush family, the Bush clan. And yet they're able to kind of walk free, right? And they're celebrated like, oh, look how great they are, right? They're not even, you know, they've never been held accountable for these things. Because, you know, it was part of a plan that they were just puppets in, right? And so the media never really went after them. I mean, these are atrocities. You know, the amount of lives that are lost. I mean, they talk about what happened with Trump, you know, the big event for Trump after his election, after the last election, right? But what he did, like whatever they say that he did, even the worst case scenario, is that worse than the 1 million people died in Iraq, the trillions of dollars that were spent in Iraq and Afghanistan, the countries that are ruined, the governments in Libya, the Arab Spring? I mean, no, come on. Like, he certainly wasn't the worst president in the modern era. The last, you know, of all the last presidents, he probably has a much smaller amount of, you know, a death list of people that he didn't drone kids and things like that, right? And if he did, it was less than what Obama and even Biden has done. And so, you know, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.